didn't start. Episode 17, Prevelations Podcast. This is Sean and Danny of Prevail Strength and Fitness, prevailstrengthandfitness.com, Lean Strength Online, Nutrition Coaching, Prevail Adventure Club, Adventure Training Preparations and Guiding,
Photography,
and Danny G Photography. It's a few of the things we have going on, and we have more things going on.
We have more things going on.
So this will be announced already.
Yes. So if you follow us on social, you already know.
We already know that. And if you're on YouTube, you can see pictures of, I don't know, what's the name of them? Sonic, what's the
ultrasound.
Ultrasounds, there we go.
Sonic.
I was like, I was thinking
sonograms.
Sonograms, that's not the same thing.
Yeah, we're having a baby.
Yeah. And so that is, that's
pretty
already,
wild.
That's already live everywhere. It's February 5th as we're recording this.
Yes.
So it'll be up in a couple days kind of thing, maybe, right?
Wild.
Yeah. And today we're going to talk about the first 3 months of pregnancy.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop. And we'll answer some, we'll talk about some personal stuff, but we'll also get into the strength, fitness, movement side of this first 3 months of pregnancy.
Yeah.
Because that'll be kind of like the topic and the, the thumbnail, that stuff will be...
That'll be definitely intertwined for the next 6 months, for sure.
Right.
A part of
this one
what we're doing.
specifically is going to be covering how you stayed fit and how you managed the first trimester of pregnancy.
Yes.
Okay. So, personally, right, we are a little bit of a context, right? You just turned 35.
Yes.
I'm 42. It was kind of like if we're going to do this, we need to do this time of life.
Yeah,
right?
let's just see what happens. And it happened fast.
It happened fast.
So here we are, 12 weeks later.
And because birthday was late November.
Late November.
Right, so it was...
The beginning of November.
Right, yeah. So technically, you were pregnant when we went and did our last...
50 miles in the Grand Canyon.
Our last R3 in the canyon. And you have a Guatemala volcano hike in 2 weeks.
Next weekend.
Yeah, next week. Yeah. 10 days from now.
10 days.
So training for that, we transitioned out of Grand Canyon training.
Yes.
Had a little bit of a lull.
Yes.
3 or 4 weeks maybe.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of where we were just doing our basics, normal stuff. And then volcano prep started.
Yes.
So I guess where do you want to start with? Do you want to start on the movement side? Do you want to start on how you were feeling? Some things that have changed?
It doesn't matter.
How did the first trimester affect you?
I kind of died a little.
Right. And that's when we first, it was like you had...
I took 3 days in a row, I took a nap.
Uh-huh.
And that was kind of like a sign, because if you guys know me in real life, I'm like nonstop energy.
Yeah.
So I thought I was either getting the flu or pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You had a flu baby.
Flu baby. So yeah, my energy tanked really fast.
Yeah. And that is pretty much, your energy has been, I would say, 50 to 70% less than normal through the month of December and January.
Yes, which is a lot.
A solid 8 weeks.
70% difference is a lot.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
It's a dramatic amount of difference.
Yeah. And then plus being nauseous most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, so on the energy side, it kind of got back down to I just need to hit bare minimums of movement. Really. It came down to one, we had to avoid the studio as much as possible, so we weren't dropping into any of the group sessions.
Yep.
Kind of selective about who was in the room when we were working out from other instructors.
Yep.
And thank goodness it's winter, lots of layering.
Yes. I mean, some people probably could have been able to notice, but I just felt so bloated.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone has
mm-hmm.
just felt extreme water retention and bloating
mm-hmm.
first.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that started at 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you would also normally, you would like to work out well beyond an hour if you had the opportunity.
Yes. And
Right.
I was always like,
At least you would want to be doing stuff 7 days, 8 days a week.
throwing random stuff in there and like pushing pretty hard. And I was like,
And usually do at least an easy 10K a day in steps.
easy.
Right. And so all of that pretty much went down to like minimal effective dose, whatever you could muster, like
Yes.
maybe 5,000, 7,000 steps a day, maybe.
Yeah. I tried to be very intentional and still hit 7,000 because 10 to 12 was kind of my base before. So that's already a huge drop.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple days that I just could not.
Yeah.
And it was also freezing. So like 5K was still the target at least,
Mhm.
but 7K
Mhm.
was like pretty much what I averaged.
Yeah. Yeah. And then workouts were like 45 minutes, 40 minutes.
Yeah, and there was a lot of sitting and laying in between.
Right.
And like not pushing. It's not that I wasn't lifting, because I was still lifting, but not like what I normally do. Like usually we focus on, okay, we're going to lift out a 8 out of 10 hard.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
mine was like, okay, it's like a 6 or a 7.
Yeah. And that wasn't because your body wasn't capable. It's just that
No.
there was no energy.
No energy.
There was nothing in the tank to like
No.
just push past it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on the nutrition side, you were still trying to be super aware of not overeating,
Yes.
which is also hard because when you're trying to manage energy to want to go do more, you have to eat enough to do that.
Yes.
But then you also want generally speaking, we want a highest quality of food to
Mhm.
produce the best, highest quality energy so that we can get into high quality exercise, all that stuff.
Yes.
And that was tough because you were nauseous
Yes.
quite often for
Most
a
of
long
the
time.
time, yeah.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
So it's hard to eat, the traditional, normal, high quality energy producing foods.
Yeah. I mean, we were used to big salads multiple times a day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, salad just sounded terrible for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
Or chicken or,
Right. Right.
all the stuff that we're normally eating.
Yeah, and probably the biggest change was it's kind of recommended during pregnancy to drop your caffeine intake to
Oh my gosh.
under 200, right?
Oh my gosh, the caffeine.
And
yes.
you, on a normal basis,
I would have like
consume
a 400 a day. 400 milligrams of caffeine a day.
easy.
500.
Yeah, and some days it would get out of hand like 6.
Maybe, depending on what we're doing.
Yeah, so if we're going to say an average, you basically, so you took your energy level went in half.
Yes.
You like intentionally dropped your caffeine intake to half.
Yes, and another thing is like coffee sounded terrible.
Right.
And I love coffee, so
Right.
sad.
Yeah.
Okay. So caffeine went way low.
So it wasn't that you couldn't or you intentionally made all your workouts easier.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there wasn't anything there to really push into. There's just not enough fuel
Yeah.
to like really want to and it's also hard to like get into any kind of intensity when you feel nauseous.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
just
like you
difficult.
always kind of want to be eating something so you don't feel nauseous, but then you
Mhm.
still feel nauseous. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. But you didn't also, nothing really changed with the way that you were lifting.
No.
So we still went into like the same normal ideas like Prevail method type stuff. Right?
Yeah.
One day of big compound movements, heavy.
Mhm.
Another day of big compound, maybe with some accessory stuff at a medium to light range. Big range of motion.
Still
all
sprinkled
the
in some
good stuff.
sprints in there.
Right. Did some random sprints. Started ramping up Guatemala hike, which meant right back to pre-canyon. We were doing a bunch of like 10-pound weighted shuffling, climbing
Mhm.
speed, quote unquote speed. We are not fast. But now going to volcano training, we're like, oh man, we got to get back ready for 35-pound packs.
Yeah.
Which is a whole different style of training. So now we're going back to heavy rucks, heavy packs,
Mhm.
and just walking time on feet to build up the strength of like carrying a heavy pack for a long time.
Yeah.
Adding in stairs and adding in hills and
Step ups,
which you were
I dreaded
yeah.
so much, which is not me at all.
No.
I love training. And then honestly, on the flip side of that, like every time I finished any of the sessions, I felt better than when I started, but it is so hard to like get motivated to get going when you feel like you're going to throw up.
Yeah. And we've been kidding around like the first trimester you pregnant is like how average people just feel all the time.
Which it makes me sad.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's also, you know, there are some people, obviously you have like a natural level of energy more than me. But there's also a lot of things that you do to make sure that energy stays high.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because when it comes to sleep and nutrition and hydration and all the things.
Daily
like,
steps. Yeah.
Right. Movement creates energy.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's kind of a joke.
It is
like
kind of a joke.
Napping.
Because I watch so much TV.
Movies. Just a regular old human there
just
for a while.
Regular human.
So then training got harder and longer.
Yes.
Kind of just made... what do you think were things that you really had to change with your food and nutrition? Obviously, mindset became like, I just got to get this done.
Yes. Yeah, I just have to get this done because I've already made a commitment.
Right.
Already doing this. We've talked about this a little bit on some of the longer adventures that we've done, but I didn't really require a lot of water. I just adapted really easy to whatever and didn't need anything.
Yeah.
And I've been drinking so much water. So like staying on top of hydration really, sometimes we would adventure and food wasn't really that big of a deal for me to maintain my energy in this time, like making sure I'm having something every 30 minutes while we're doing our long endurance stuff was like really important and staying on top of that.
Yeah. And was there anything changed about with the snacks that you were normally having compared to having then? I
mean, some things just sounded terrible, so I tried to switch out flavors of things, really. Just anything that I knew I would like actually eat while we were there.
Yeah.
But not really the types of foods, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we built up to, we've got our longest day so far. I think we did 2.5 hours and you were at 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a pretty big day no matter what, especially on top of the 10 weeks. And then the normal exercisey things kind of, you were still doing, probably lifting at least 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Throughout the first trimester, a little bit shorter sessions, a little less intense in the sessions.
Yes.
And it was really like hitting the basics. Okay, let's get some hip lifts, let's get some pull-ups, let's get some presses. And then, all right, that's it for the day. Come another day, let's get the other patterns going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What muscle have I not hit by the end of the week? Hit a little bit of that. Very minimal effective dose.
Yeah.
Just to keep up the, to keep up your health, keep up your muscle mass, keep up.
Yes, muscle mass for sure.
Keep up your strength,
Yeah.
keep a baseline, because we knew that it's only going to get harder to maintain that stuff as the pregnancy continues to move forward.
Yes. And I love to go on like little shuffles around the neighborhood, and that has been down. I think I did it like week 6 and 7 just to like prove to myself that I was going to like still do it.
And you went out for how long?
My first one, it was like 2 miles, and my second one was like 2 miles maybe. But then like week 8 through 10 just really smacked me.
Yeah.
But I think if we weren't volcano, like when we get back from the volcano, I will still try to incorporate what I can with some shuffling around the
that's going to go
neighborhood for fun, because we won't have a weighted.
Yeah, that'll go back to like a baseline
like a heart health cardio stuff.
Right. I'm going to do at least 45 to 60 minutes of a zone 2 shuffle.
Typically my favorite
climb,
type
hike,
of
step up day. That's kind of a normal week in, week out, like normal process.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Has anything felt physically, like any of the exercises felt different than normal?
The only thing that I've really noticed so far is with my heavy pack, my tailbone is so sore.
Right. That's a new thing.
It's a very new thing.
Yeah. And that's going to be some obviously the hips and that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that part of the body is going to be going under a lot of like stress. It's going to be going through a lot of changes. But then there's also the connective tissues are changing, right? The ability for the ligaments to keep that same sort of like, I don't know, tension, I guess is the word to say, without getting too geeky about that.
Sure.
Is that, you know, the ligaments don't have, they're going to become looser and looser and looser throughout pregnancy. So it's not that heavy weights are necessarily bad or dangerous while in pregnancy, but there's a little bit of like, you just don't have the same tolerance that you would have before.
Yeah.
This is not your first time to train with a heavy pack. And this is also your first time for that part of your body to get kind of stressed by that new heavy pack.
Yeah.
That's like, ooh, this might be just overstressing tissue.
Yeah.
And this is where my body wants to like feel that stress from that tissue.
Yeah.
But that's almost done.
Yes. 10 days. We'll train again this weekend.
Yeah, and that'll pretty much be the last one before you go.
Yeah.
And then you're still going.
I'm still going. So that's like the first, like, we've told immediate family and friends at this point, and that's like the first question. They're like, are you still hiking the volcano?
Right.
I'm like, yes, which our doctor is pretty cool.
Yep.
She doesn't have any concerns about it because it's stuff that we've done often. So just going to have to be aware of altitude sickness, basically.
That was the only, it wasn't the mileage or the weight or the elevation gain that was that was kind of like is this really smart? It was that the trail starts at 7,800, climbs to 11,500, sleep at 11,500. From 11,500, you take 2 mini hikes from 11,500 to 13.
Twice, yeah.
Yeah, you take one at the night and then one the next early in the next morning, and then you come all the way back down to the trailhead, back down to the town at 45.
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit of like, should you really be sleeping at 11,000 feet? But the nurse practitioner and the doctor both had no issues, and they were just, you know, pay attention to altitude sickness like you would pay attention to altitude sickness any other time.
Yeah.
And it's whether or not you've never had any issues. Anytime we've gone to like up to 14ers or anything previously.
Yes.
You've never even had like, you've had like the normal, oh, my breath and my heart rate feels different, but you've never had any kind of symptoms from altitude before. No. But I do. Right. I usually have like kind of problems with my vision a little bit, and it corrects, and I watch, I moderate my pace, and things are okay. I drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
So knowing that, it was like, well, there probably shouldn't be any issues, but does the pregnancy now change how your body reacts to elevations?
Yeah.
So we did a mini test, went to Red River last weekend and did a hike from 8K to 10K. So 2K of climb, and it was not long. It was 2K of climb in less than 2.5 miles, so it was fairly steep.
Yeah.
Good climb with weight. And there was all the normal elevation things. There was nothing wild.
No.
Right. And then really the only thing for you was that you were just low energy.
I felt slower than I normally do.
Right. But that wasn't a like heart rate thing.
Right.
It was just like where I just don't have the same normal energy that I'm used to from climbing and from like putting out effort.
My gear is just in a different gear.
You just don't have the same gear as before, which also might be a little bit around making that adjustment with food.
Right.
Right. You've never had to lean on nutrition in the past to create the same amount of energy.
Yes.
Which now might just mean, well, I really have to like focus on
eating
the nutrition. Like I personally need lots of food to keep up my energy.
Yes.
But that's something I've learned, and now that's like you're in a process now of learning this new body that requires, because you have more things requiring energy.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So those things were good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you'll be when you climb up to 13, you'll be week 12, 13? 14?
14. A
We'll be
little 14 in a couple days.
Right. So right at 14 weeks pregnant climbing.
Yeah.
Making.
Yeah.
Bench
And I mean, the plan too is like, if I get to 11.5 and we start the climb to 13 and I feel any kind of dizzy or nauseous or vision stuff or really shortness of breath where I can't catch it with stopping for 1 minute, then I'll just go back to base camp.
Right.
But yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And most of that, even if you're doing stuff in elevation, generally speaking, what gets people is the speed at which you get to these new elevations.
Yes.
Usually that's how that affects some people. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you either fly there in a short flight, you get there and you immediately try to go up to Oaxaca. You go to some restaurant
Mm-hmm.
and you walk up 3 flights of stairs to this restaurant and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm hurting, right?
Yeah.
And obviously some people are more sensitive to it, but generally speaking, as long as you're pacing your time,
Mm-hmm.
even if that's like, oh, I'm at 8,000 feet, I could push to 1,000 in the next 60 minutes if I wanted to. You're like, well, maybe I should just take like 90 minutes to get to the next 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, you can manage all those symptoms as long as you pull your pace back down.
So I just feel better.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then kind of managing like, okay, well, don't get into like so much effort that you're bouncing off of red line and heart rate, because that multiplies the effects of high elevation.
For sure. Yeah.
Because it's just low oxygen. All that stuff's low oxygen.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah.
Wild. I think, yeah. I mean, that was definitely my biggest freak out when we found out was Guatemala and my tank of energy.
Mm-hmm. Right. Is this going to be the way I feel right now at week 6
Oh my gosh.
with the nightly flu and
Y'all,
daily naps and
the flu hit me every day at 4:00.
right. You're like, how in the world am I going to?
Like there was a couple times at the studio where we were like, it was kind of like a strength week.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were there a lot in the evenings.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like 5:00. And Sean's like, walking around talking to everybody. And I'm like, if we don't leave soon, I'm going to go lay in the truck. Just dying.
Yeah, that was the hardest part with students and others and the other instructors was like, why is she drinking so much water and resting so much?
And snacking all the time.
And eating
And
all the time.
yawning.
Right, all the yawning.
Oh my gosh, I yawned so much.
What is going on?
I took a, knock on wood, turn for a little more energy, a little more me at week 11.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like slowly every day I feel like, okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
coming back.
Right. Yeah, there's a big hormone shift around
Yeah.
11 to 13 weeks.
Yeah.
Where the body kind of
Thank
like
goodness.
switches gears from this initial kind of like startup phase to like growth phase, really.
Yeah.
That's how that kind of moves around.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what about,
Nutrition.
yeah, what about food? Right? That's a kind of it's like a, everyone
Yes.
wants to ask, like, what have you been craving? What are you craving now?
Yes. Okay, well, we talked about coffee sounded terrible.
Yeah.
So it's something that I would eat all the time. Coffee,
Mm-hmm.
drink. The Barabells protein bars.
Mhm.
We had one every day. Couldn't even think about eating
Mhm.
one of those. Salads for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't last very long, thank goodness. But
Mhm.
it was like, maybe I can eat some broccoli and be okay. But a cold salad sounded just not great.
Mm-hmm.
And like chicken
Mm-hmm.
sounded terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually don't eat cheese.
Mhm.
Cheese and me just don't really go
Mhm.
together that well. And
Mhm.
all I wanted was cheese on everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I was trying to be very aware of setting myself up for a decent 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so still like really thinking about, people make jokes all the time. They're like, well, now you're eating for 2. And it's like, well, you don't really need to
No.
eat for 2.
No.
It should be a very small calorie bump.
Right.
If anything, the first trimester, some people you might not even need to, depending on where you're starting at.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What do you mean we're starting at?
so if you were already at like a maintenance with your food, like I was coming off of a fat loss phase.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hadn't like reversed all of my calories back up to a higher amount to just maintain my weight. When we came off the Canyon, I had dropped some weight.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been like, well, I need to bump this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But if I would have come off of the Canon and everything was just maintaining, I probably would have been okay.
Right.
Did I explain that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You mean like you're coming off of, if someone's coming off of a diet, if they're already dieting,
right,
you need to add food
right,
to maintain
yes.
the pregnancy.
Yes.
If you're at a very like if you're at a maintenance level, then you can just kind of hold maintenance.
Yes.
And then if you're already at surplus,
right,
well, you definitely don't need to add more surplus.
Right. And then I think that increases second trimester a little more, and then third calories.
Okay.
On like first trimester, maybe not an additional yet, depending on where you're starting at. Second trimester, I mean, these are all just like things that I've read of like maybe 100 to 200 calories more a day. And then by third trimester, it would be like 300, depending on where you're at.
Right. So even if you take that, let's take simple math, right? And let's just say that someone is on a 2,000 calorie maintenance type of food, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're pregnant, better start eating for 2."
Right.
And as you have experienced, and I witnessed, like you naturally, there's gonna be foods that you're not normally, and it's kind of like being like sick. How you don't really want super healthy food,
right?
You want like kind of, I wouldn't say greasier, but you kind of want more like,
yes,
I don't know, just more like, comforting food. And generally speaking, that comforting food is a little more calorie dense than other food, right?
Yes.
So it can be really easy to go, one, you don't feel good. So when you're nauseous, when anyone's nauseous, you want to eat things that are comforting. Those things
Sonic breakfast burritos.
Oh, right. That was definitely a big one there for a few weeks. And then it's just hard to eat healthier when you don't feel good.
Yes.
And then you take all of this idea of like eating for 2, and now all of a sudden, now I'm eating like 3,000, 3,500, 4,000 calories, not really intentionally, but I'm snacking more. I'm eating things that are different. And now you're literally eating for 2, but on that 2, you're overeating food by like 200%.
Right.
And that can get into some like, that's where, things can get a little out of hand.
Yep.
And even if you look at the math of consuming at max 500 calories, right? And you say, okay, well, I'm normally at 2. I should be eating 500 more. That's 2,500. That's a 25% increase. So when someone says you're eating for 2, you're actually eating for 1.25.
Yeah.
At most, it's a 1.25.
Yeah.
Now, the body is going to gain weight, which we talk about this all the time. There's a huge difference in gaining weight and gaining fat.
Yeah.
The body's going to gain fat because it needs to protect itself during pregnancy.
Yes.
And it's also going to gain weight from all sorts of stuff that's happening.
All sorts of stuff.
There's all sorts of things and blood and fluids and materials creating itself to sustain this pregnancy.
He says materials.
So,
So I still focused on tracking my macros because I didn't want to just go balls to the wall, because Sonic breakfast burritos sounded amazing. Nachos sounded amazing.
The video's going to turn over in 90 seconds.
Sweet potatoes sweet potato fries sounded amazing. So just trying to be aware. So I had to disguise a lot of things.
What do you mean?
So I would still eat my eggs and my egg whites in the morning, but I didn't really want eggs and egg whites. So I would put it on like a raisin toast and then cover it with cinnamon. Because I was still trying to get at least 120 grams of protein a day.
Right. Still
trying to get 25 grams of fiber a day, which is really important during pregnancy, because all sorts of things happen with your digestion. And then not just eat, 500 grams of carbs a day, because that's all I wanted. Right.
Yeah. So of course it's going to sound weird coming from a male who's like, you don't need to eat more food. And yes, you do need to eat more food. But the real, like, if you get down to like what's required of the human body, it's not 2 eggs. You're not eating for 2.
No. And for me personally, my movement decreased by a lot.
Right. So the whole energy equation made a huge shift.
Yes. Now, if I would have had my same energy and been doing all the things that I was doing right before I got pregnant, then I think I would have needed to increase my food more.
For sure.
Yeah.
And now that you're coming,
and I was increasing it on those long hike days as well. Yeah.
Right.
Same
And
as I would normally do.
now that you're coming into higher energy,
Mm-hmm.
we're still in winter, kind of winter, not really winter, but there's going to be more days that are nicer than not in the next 3 months compared to the last 3 months. And so the increasing of food for pregnancy and increasing food for movement, like all that food needs to be controlled up.
Yeah.
For sure. But there's, for you and for your goals, gaining an excess amount of weight is, you're definitely trying to manage, like, I want to make sure I'm as healthy as possible for this pregnancy, but I do not need to be in excess just because. Right.
Yes.
So it's like, I need to make sure that I'm maintaining a healthy body fat percentage.
Yes.
I'm eating enough high quality food to sustain this pregnancy. But part of your goals is to, like, you want to stay within a healthy range of weight as close as possible.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I know that looks different for everybody.
Right.
Like the ranges could be, you know, I know if you have this like perfect idea of a certain amount that you're going to gain in pregnancy, it could definitely be something else. So I'm not like setting rigid rules, but I am trying like to not go crazy. Yeah.
And this is definitely not a this is what we think you should do. This is just what's happening. This is where Danny is, and this is what she wants to prioritize.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, so I was disguising a lot of foods to make sure I was hitting my protein. That was probably the biggest thing. Protein pancakes, yogurt still.
Yeah.
But trying different flavors of yogurt, because the vanilla one that I used to eat and love all the time, I couldn't even look at. Fruit, a ton of fruit.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else I was like.
All the same stuff.
It was all the same stuff.
There was just more breakfast burritos and nachos than before.
Yes, for sure.
That's about the biggest shift.
And basically cinnamon on everything. I don't know why, but it was.
And then you were
sandwiches.
More ground beef. I
wanted ground beef.
You wanted more red meat, right? Whole eggs got introduced.
Yes.
And more than before. And then protein pancakes. What else were you doing with protein pancakes?
So I was reading on Google. I hated waking up and feeling terrible. So it was like, put something beside the bed, have a bite of it before you get up in the morning. So I had like crackers. So I would like eat a cracker, get up, and it like helped a little bit, but not really. And so then I went down a deep dive on this blog, and this girl was like, I make something, put it on my nightstand, and every time I get up to go to the bathroom, which was like 4 or 5 times a night, I'm eating a bite of something throughout the night to keep up with my nausea for the next morning. So I was making, we were laughing because I'm like, here I am making my midnight snack, a Kodiak pancake, just mixed with like water, nothing like crazy, one every night, and putting it on my nightstand. And every time I got up, I had a bite of it, and it helped so much. Yeah, I would hear a little my hands like
of
open the
Tupperware to-go container or whatever.
At like 2 a.m.
Crackles. But that made a big difference in your nausea, because it seemed like the nausea was intensified when the stomach was empty.
Yes. And throughout the night.
Right. You obviously empty your stomach because you're technically in a fasting state when you're asleep.
Yeah.
So it was really like, I need to keep something on my stomach as often as possible.
Yes.
And that shifted from the crackers to a more of a protein based, just because you're like, all right, if I'm going to be eating something as often as possible, how can I kind of like shift this a little bit,
manage this
to help with at least getting more protein in.
Yes.
But still making it kind of like carb like.
Yes.
And feel.
Yes, because nothing else sounded great.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
So that did help a lot. So if anyone is listening to this and you're in the thick of your first trimester and feeling nauseous, it did help. And now I'm not having to do that anymore. So that is also nice. What else? Oh yeah, sweets I still wanted. So making oatmeal with a chocolate protein powder and almond butter and banana. Just making stuff sound and taste a little better for what I was really craving. Was helpful.
Yeah, the cheese was definitely the biggest thing. It was the shift, but that's kind of shifted away now.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever did this as a kid, but get just like tortilla chips and shredded cheese, and you would just heat it up in the microwave.
Like a little quesadilla?
Yeah, it was like nachos, but it was just cheese and chips.
Yeah.
I thought about that so often. Just nuts. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah.
Okay, so that's
basically
it so far. Energy tanked, caffeine dropped, managed food at maintenance.
Yes.
Made some shifts.
Yes. I mean, I definitely gained some weight already, for sure.
Which is normal and expected.
Yeah. The hardest thing was just keeping it a secret, honestly.
Yeah, that's definitely been the hardest thing.
And feeling like I had no energy.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a whole different person.
Yeah.
Whole different person.
I kept saying, new year, new me.
New year, new us. Everyone keeps asking us. Oh, so, I mean, we'll go over. We don't see it. As of today, we don't know the sex.
No, we don't.
We will find out as soon as possible. We are not going to have any kind of crazy gender reveal party. We're going to learn.
I mean, we might do a crazy gender reveal for you guys, but not for
We're just
ourselves.
You had blood drawn yesterday.
Yes.
So we should find out within like 10 days what the sex is.
Yeah.
And then we'll come up with some creative, fun way to like tell family and friends if it's going to be a boy or a girl.
Yeah.
Neither, we don't care.
No.
We don't have any preference either way. And
no, I'm excited either way.
To surprise us seems kind of crazy at the same time. You know?
Right.
Like why?
Yeah.
Because to us, we don't care.
Yeah, but we'll surprise you guys.
But it is fun because you can get to lean into all sorts of like other fun stuff once you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you get him a pink dumbbell or a blue dumbbell?
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Or whatever it is.
I think it'll be fun to find out.
Cliche boy-girl things are.
Definitely not going to wait.
No. And then do August 15th?
Yep, do August 15th as of right now.
In theory.
Another
all right, close to that. Yep. And what else? What did people ask? It was not an accident.
It was not an accident.
It was planned. It was just the plan happened way faster than we thought. She was about to turn 35. She walked in the kitchen and she said, "I think we should make a human."
I said, "I think we should just see what would happen."
Yeah.
And it happened the next day. So
quick.
Here we are. Oh man.
With a quickness.
Yeah.
Neither one of us have ever envisioned being parents.
No.
It's never been on our like radar or bucket list or vision of a life is
lifelong
to be like,
dream.
I really would love. I can't wait to have kids.
Yeah.
That's never been either one of us.
No.
And not that we like hate that idea, but it was never on the top of our list ever.
No.
But time is definitely a factor.
Time is a ticking.
Time's ticking, and there's some pros and cons about being healthy in age to make a human, but then there's the flip side of like
to make a human.
Us being at an age to enjoy the human,
right?
Which kind of plays into that decision making as well. You don't want to be 70 and be running around with a 10-year-old, right?
Right.
But we had a lot of things that we wanted to do personally.
Yeah.
And
before we played around with that idea.
We've done a lot of the things. There's still a lot of things we want to do and a lot of things that we will continue to do. And we understand that there's going to be quite an adjustment to make those things happen.
Yes, we understand that it's going to be hard.
Yes, already. It's as soon as we knew we were pregnant, I think that was the one thing we were dreading. It was like, we get to hear about
just waits.
Why the just waits. And
just wait till you're exhausted,
right,
and just wait till how hard it is.
We've been hearing that.
I'm like, we did wait
10 years. Everyone's been like, "Oh, you wait till you have kids." I'm like, we are literally waiting.
We did, and we did wait.
We
waited. We waited 7 years.
Yeah. So everyone that we've talked to so far, and you've been positive, and you've been encouraging, and you've been.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much because we're positive, encouraging people. We don't have people come in the studio and be like, "Oh, it's gonna suck. You're gonna be starving and sweating all the time."
Right.
No, we say, "Hey, it's gonna be great. You're gonna be stronger, and you're gonna be doing all the things you ever wanted to do in life."
Yeah.
With this new physical body and brain of yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, we understand. We're gonna be tired.
We understand.
And we understand it's gonna be some tough months.
Yeah, I'm terrified. Don't scare me more.
Yes, we're both terrified.
Yeah.
We'll post a video at some point of our reaction to seeing the pregnancy test. It's the most... I don't want to say unemotional because there's definitely emotion, but we're just in shock. We're just terrified of like
Terrified.
everything's going to change.
Terrified.
We're terrified. We have no idea what we're doing.
We're terrified.
And we went to the doc the first time, and she's like, I feel like a...
She was like, do you have any questions? And I was like, I feel like a 35-year-old teen mom. So if you could tell me what I should be asking,
right,
that would be great.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
See? There we go. Right?
There we go.
The I'm hungries. That's a new thing.
We're
for
shutting
Danielle.
it down.
I'm hungries.
12 o'clock.
Okay.
We're shutting it down.
There you go. That's a update.
We will keep doing these
first
along with everything else.
First trimester update for Danny and the new Shanyo and the new Pavilion entering the world in May, or I mean in August.
May.
I was thinking May's Canyon.
Shut it down.
There you go. So if you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. Give us all your whatever you want to talk about humans about. If you find any of this relatable, if you find any of this
please
interesting,
comment. Send me a message.
Yeah, send message.
Instagram.
Danny_Prevail. And if not, comment on YouTube. And if you're on the podcast, head over to us on socials and say hi. There you go.
See ya.
There'll be a third person on the podcast this time next year.
Oh my gosh.
Just floating around right here.
Floating around.
See you guys.